G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. If you love this kind of content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get into it. I am worried that my sister has feelings for my girlfriend. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2.5 years, and we have a really great relationship. My sister and I have always been close, so I was really happy when she and my girlfriend met and hit it off right away. They get along insanely well, and it's awesome, or was awesome. It might be important to point out that they are both bisexual. Everything was normal up until about 3 months ago. They started hanging out together more often than usual, taking day trips and having sleepovers and going for dinner, etc. I didn't care about it initially. I thought it was cool that the two most important women in my life were such good friends. Then my sister Amy started making comments saying that if we ever broke up, she's first in line to date my girlfriend Emily. She calls Emily her wifey and follows her around like a lost puppy. Amy says that Emily is our girlfriend, and I swear she gets jealous when I interact with her. And then, last week, I got home from work, and as I walked through the door, I could hear them chatting in the living room. This isn't out of the ordinary. It was what I heard that really bothered me. My sister said, "Holy F, I have such a crush on you," in the most lustful voice I have ever heard. I really hated typing that. Emily laughed and their conversation moved on, but it really didn't sit well with me. So later on I asked Emily what they were talking about. I think context is important. And she told me that they went shopping earlier in the day and were doing a little fashion show for each other. She said that those kinds of comments are normal between girlfriends and it's nothing to worry about. It made sense to me, and I trust Emily. I decided to talk to Amy. I asked how their shopping spree went, etc., and then gently asked her what the crush comment was about. She got very defensive, and then accused me of being jealous of her relationship with Emily, then told me to grow the hell up. I'm not worried about Emily doing anything behind my back to betray me, and I never have. There's just something about the way my sister is acting that irks me. And I don't know how to approach this without blowing up any of our relationships. This is just another one of those posts where I feel like the more you type and give us context, the more it should be obvious, or maybe pointing towards an obvious conclusion that you don't want to accept or you don't want to be a reality. If I were you, I would interrogate further and get to the bottom of that comment, because I don't feel like that's a normal kind of comment, and Amy's reaction, getting very defensive, telling you to grow the hell up, and Emily's reaction to the news as well, kind of telling. Little bit telling. I don't think that's normal behavior for people that aren't hooking up or have an active interest in each other. So, yeah. Why am I having flashbacks to that one post on Am I the Arsehole about a girl being absolutely mad her boyfriend and her twin brother were actually together all the time and used her as a shield by the boyfriend dating her for years and not telling her? I have a bad feeling, OP. I remember that story. That poor girl dated the guy for like 7 or 9 years before finding out the truth. Imagine that. Broke my heart to read that. And they lived together and had talked about marriage and kids more than once. It was just plain cruel. The other worst part, besides making her an unwitting beard, was the parents making her out to be the bad guy. If we're talking about the same thing, I'm pretty sure it was what was prompting her post. If your sister was a man and doing these same things, including the sleepovers, you would have no doubt what's going on. I would tell both of them this has gone too far and needs to stop. I don't think you want to marry into this situation. Okay, so your girlfriend is enabling your sister. She needs to put down some definite boundaries, otherwise this can turn ugly very quickly. You should really talk to your girlfriend. Sit her down and tell her that you feel uncomfortable with the way they both interact with each other. If she gets defensive, you'll know that something more is going on, and that she probably, most definitely, because otherwise she would have already done it, enjoys the attention and compliments. If that happens, I'd advise you to really think through if you really want to stay with someone who is constantly flirting with your sister and will probably end up doing more than just emotionally cheat. However, if she's understanding and changes her behavior, you should only worry about putting some space between you both and your sister. Good luck to you. My guess is she may also need some guidance because it's really hard to know the right approach when you want your significant other's family to like you. They are so young. She may just need more info and a direct yes, set these boundaries and I'll have your back whatever her reaction. It can be an intimidating line to walk. This sub seems to get super intense about telling people to just set boundaries, but if you've never learned, it's a process, and it can be scary. And now, on to the update. There have been some developments. When I got home from work yesterday evening, I found the two of them on the couch in the living room watching a movie. I decided that I should just get it over with, so I sat down in the seat across from them and said that the three of us needed to have a talk. I basically just asked them if something was going on between them and mentioned how much extra time they've been spending together and acting almost like they're dating. My sister immediately started sobbing and Emily just looked really sad. Amy couldn't speak through her tears, so Emily filled me in. Turns out, Amy has been going through a really bad breakup and not taking it well. Amy's boyfriend cheated on her with multiple women and gave her an STD. I guess it ended in a big blowout, and he trashed her place and threw her around. 3 months ago, Emily noticed that something was wrong and asked her what was up while they were out for lunch. Amy couldn't hold back and spilled all that happened to Emily and then begged her not to tell me anything until she decided what she wanted to do. Emily started staying over at her place for a few reasons. Helping her fix up her home, support, etc. And then Amy found out that she's pregnant with this asshole's baby and her mental health plummeted. Their extra hangouts were mostly to do with preparing for this new baby/pregnancy, including the fashion show, which was maternity wear for both of them. What I was perceiving as jealousy from Amy was actually a longing/envy of the solid relationship that Emily and I have, not an actual crush on Emily. The crush comment and wifey nickname were literally just girly comments in their words. Amy was reactive to my questioning because she was so deeply betrayed by this guy, and being accused of doing that was very hurtful. I didn't even know that Amy was dating anybody. It seems the asshole has just left the province, and Amy doesn't want to pursue anything legally. She just wants to move on and be happy. They are 6 weeks apart, and were planning on telling me about the matching pregnancies this coming weekend. So in short, Amy and Emily are best friends. I'm going to be an uncle and then a father, and I get Brother of the Year award for not noticing that anything was going on with her. You have no reason to blame yourself. She didn't tell you she had a boyfriend, so how could you know that she was being abused? Especially since she was spending so much time with Emily. You didn't notice because there was no way you could have known that it was happening, and you handled everything exactly as you should have. You stayed calm, talked with them and listened. You didn't blow up at them. You didn't throw accusations. You listened and talked. Good job, and congrats on becoming a dad and an uncle. Also, you might want to hire a private investigator to hunt down the boyfriend. Even if she doesn't want to press charges, he should definitely be forced to pay child support. I don't think OP was wrong for his reaction. He received no information, noticed a significant change in how both were acting and talking, and did the appropriate thing of talking about it. Exactly. Although his sister's reaction that the brother had to just grow up still doesn't sit well with me given all context. I actually couldn't keep the name straight and thought Amy was his girlfriend, in which case I was shocked by the grow the F up comment. But when I realized Amy is his sister, then it seems a bit more okay. Siblings tend to be a bit immature with one another. It wasn't a good or helpful reaction from Amy, but less suspicious, a sibling just shutting down a conversation they don't want to have. It is bizarre that so many people are blazing past the part where the baby was conceived in an abusive relationship. Leaving one not pregnant is hard enough, let alone leaving one and then finding out you're pregnant. I imagine she wasn't telling people either because she was scared of what they'd think, or just didn't want the judgment to be cast onto her. Not to mention how she's still likely processing her relationship and what went on in it. Pregnant from an abusive POS who's also infected her with an undisclosed STD, probably discovered during standard STD screening due to the pregnancy. I think it's because OP came for help regarding his relationship, not the sister's. I agree that her situation regards its own level of care, but to involve one member of a relationship while keeping the other completely in the dark is kind of asking for trouble. OP doesn't sound like an unreasonable person. He was just working with zero communication from the people he referred to as the most important women in his life. I'm sure if they just mentioned sister was going through a breakup, he wouldn't have gone worst case scenario like he did. At first, I was also on the how could she tell her friend/sister-in-law before her partner train, but then I remembered my sister figured out that I was pregnant before I did, and I was trying. It absolutely makes sense for a recently pregnant person to recognize the signs of early pregnancy and convince their friends to take a pregnancy test. Of course, the newly pregnant person takes it with their friend nearby instead of their significant other. They expect it to be negative anyway. In my case, I told my husband of my sister's suspicion that evening. The next day, my sister bought me a pregnancy test, but I waited until I was home with my husband to take it. She was so cocky when I told her that it was positive. Our next post is titled, My 29 female, husband, 31 male, got a paternity test on our daughter, 5 female, and it came back negative. But I never cheated. Now he thinks our relationship is a lie and I want to divorce. What do I do? I don't know how it happened and I haven't been able to stop crying all day. I never cheated. I love my husband and we've been together since college and he's the love of my life. He's handsome and kind, and all while I've slept with 2 other people, both were before we got together. There is no other potential father for our daughter. We were married already and actively trying for a baby. I never cheated, I never would cheat, and I don't know why he took that stupid test, because I would never ever cheat. But it came back negative, and now he thinks he's not her dad. I don't know how to convince him that it was a faulty test, and I'm so scared. These past few months, it's like he's become someone completely different from the man that I married. He is cold and suspicious. He kept demanding to see my phone and wouldn't tell me why. And I showed him at first, but eventually told him that I wouldn't anymore unless he explained why. He's been distant with our daughter too. He stays in his office for hours on end, and I don't know what he's doing. I did not cheat. He accused me this morning, saying he'd done the test after realizing that our daughter's eyes, brown, wouldn't naturally come from both of ours, both blue, and that he wanted me to get out of the house. I didn't leave, and he locked me out of our bedroom, and now I'm in our daughter's room. This is terrifying. What should I do? Edit. The specific advice I want is how I can prove I'm innocent and to make sure this relationship works. I want to keep my family together at all costs. Also, I just had a conversation with my husband. He's out of his room now, and we discussed some things. I told him again that I would never cheat, and started talking about a list I made of tests I want done. But he told me that he didn't want to hear it right now. We're going to have a longer conversation tomorrow, and he said that he still loves our daughter, and that he won't try to keep me out of the house or our room for now. I asked him to hug me, and he did. I'm scared that I won't be able to convince him. I just want our family to go back to normal. How can I be a good wife and support his needs while proving my innocence? Get DNA for all 3 of you in case the hospital switched babies. Make sure she is yours as well. That sounds crazy, but it could happen. Use a different reputable company and do not tell them anything. It's also possible that the father could have chimerism, meaning that he could have different DNA in his sperm cells than he does in the rest of his body. Rare, but possible. This was my first thought. I remember a story about a mum who didn't match her own kids that she gave birth to. It turns out she was a chimera, and her blood DNA was basically a different person from her egg's DNA. Did you actually see the results? Or is this just what your husband is stating? Came back negative is such a weird way to state the result of a paternity test. I'm not saying one way or the other on the actual test, but negative on a match sounds correct. What other wording would be used? Paternity tests use percentage to determine a match. Either A, he is lying and possibly faking the test results, most likely because he's cheating and or trying to leave you, B, you're lying, or C, the test results were mixed up, or there was a serious error somewhere. Exactly. Stop looking for approval and forgiveness from your husband when there is a very real chance he is making this up. Stop freaking out, keep calm. Go get a test done ASAP on all of you. Stop trying to hang on tighter to your hubby. You need to focus on yourself and your child. While you're focused on him, he may be actively screwing you. You didn't cheat. Either she isn't your kid or he is lying. Do not look to him, just get the test. And now, onto the update. Hi everyone. First off, I wanted to thank everyone who reached out. My original post got so much attention, it was hard to get everything, but I ended up making a list of plans and tests that I wanted to get done. My husband was, understandably, distrustful of me for a while, but he apologized for the way he acted, which I didn't need, and said that he wouldn't try to kick me out of our home. He did say, though, that if every test came back and I'd cheated, then he was going to go scorched earth. We did a few tests, blood paternity tests for him and me and our daughter, and we had an appointment with a chimerism specialist coming up, but that got cancelled because, well, some of you guessed it, but my daughter is not biologically mine either. I don't know how this happened, but a police officer came to our house and took our statements. We are suing the hospital where I gave birth. I don't know what happened to my baby, and that is terrifying. I have my husband back, but my whole world was still upended, and I just wish that he had never taken that stupid test. I've been sleeping in my daughter's room, and I'm so afraid that she's going to be taken away from me. But at the same time, I want to know where my biological daughter is, and if she's okay. I pray to God that she's okay. My daughter still doesn't know the details, and we've been trying to keep this quiet. The last thing we need is a big scandal. I don't want people who know us to look at her differently. She deserves better than that. She is such a good kid, and she's not some spectacle to be gawked at. If we can find her birth family, I have no idea what we'll do. I guess the best case scenario would be to get a bigger house and all live together, but I don't know if we can afford that, or if they would go for that, or even if we'll be able to locate them, or if I'm just crazy. This whole situation is crazy. I don't know anyone else who's been in a situation like this. I mean, are there support groups for parents of kids who got mixed up? I googled and nothing came up. Literally, all I'm getting are tabloid articles from trashy magazines that slap the faces of innocent kids on the same pages as celebrity sex scandals and fiction. How do we tell our daughter? I mean, we can't tell her now. She'll tell the kids at school, and then it'll be everywhere. But we have to say something. I don't know what I ever did to deserve this. What the hell? This is not the update I expected. Not in a million years. I was betting on Chimera, but switched at birth blindsided me. What a nightmare. Love the child you have, but need to know where your biological baby is. At the same time, there is another family with a ticking time bomb that they don't even know about. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. When we left the hospital after the birth of our last child, I opened the envelope containing the picture of our kid they put in the bassinet to help identify the baby, and I noticed she looked a bit darker skinned in the pic than in real life, but chalked it up to bad lighting and my extreme exhaustion. About an hour later, we got a call from the hospital that they had mixed up the pics with someone's Indian baby. Husband went back to the hospital to exchange pics and joked that we had at least gotten the right baby. Right? Usually in these situations, the children don't switch families, but the families come together with frequent visits. Sounds like a nightmare. All the best for you. And OP replies, that would be alright. I just hope I like the other family. You should get the hospital to contact all the families that have birth at the same time and have them run DNA tests. The hospital won't do that. It would draw too much attention, and OP doesn't want a public scandal either. Oh my god, this is like out of a bad movie. I'm so sorry, OP, for all the parties involved. I can't even begin to imagine the emotional upheaval that your family is going through. And OP replies, I know. That's why I don't want this getting out. My daughter doesn't need some slimeball paparazzi's cameras on her. It's already hellish enough. I wouldn't breathe a word of this to anyone, which it sounds like you are doing. I would, however, hire a good lawyer. The unknown is scary. Having a lawyer to talk to and to help you navigate this very murky grey space will be money well spent, as will a psychologist. You may not be ready to bring your daughter up to speed, but you need a safe place for you and your husband to unpack the roller coaster of emotions that you two have been through. I hope this has a happy ending for you, although I have no idea what that would look like. Good luck." And OP replies, "I'm not saying anything. It's all just happened, and we're trying to figure out where to go from here. Best case scenario, in my head, would be moving in with the other family and raising both girls together, but that probably is not an option." Alright, and this next story doesn't have an update, but I saw it on Twitter and I feel like I just really wanted to cover it on the channel. So this one's titled, "My partner didn't inform me he's having unprotected sex with someone else." I've been seeing this guy for a few months, and recently started having sex with him. He's polyamorous, as am I, and has been open and honest with that, and is married, but currently has no other partners. He has briefly described loving his wife and having a strong family dynamic, but they'd be broken up if they didn't have kids. He's been open about his previous relationships, and his wife knows everything. According to him, I'm his only other partner. When we had sex, he had a condom on, and I asked him to remove it in the midst of it. Yes, he finished inside as well. I did that with the knowledge I'm the only person he's currently having sex with, as I stupidly assumed, based on the dynamic he has with his wife. I asked, and he said he's sexually active with her, and doesn't see the issue. He's STD-free and has a vasectomy, and I should have asked beforehand, but now I feel kind of off about the whole thing. Am I being dramatic? Oh yeah, he would leave if not for the kids. Damn, if only those pesky kids weren't the glue that was holding this marriage together. I'd have up and left my wife 10 years ago, but unfortunately I cannot. I'm very sorry. Let's continue this relationship. This one has the situational awareness level of a dead chicken. This is why married people shouldn't have sex with each other. There's too many problems that ensue. Like, who marries for sex anyway? That's such an old concept. So, you're screwing and seeing someone who is poly, but would leave his wife. So clearly, she's been bulldozed into this dynamic. He didn't tell you that he's actively having unprotected sex with her, lying by omission, and he has a strong bond and love for his family, but wouldn't be with his wife if they didn't have kids. Have you spoken to his wife? Do you know he's in an open relationship? Or are you the side chick that he's keeping secret and lying, telling you he's open? This man alluded to a dead bedroom, but then drops the bomb that it isn't. I'd run. Weird to me that you think he'd raw dog you and not his wife? OP replies, he was making hints at having a dead bedroom for years. According to him, I'm his only other partner. That right there sounds pretty clear that he might be sleeping with his wife too. They would have broken up if they didn't have kids, doesn't mean they might not ever want to have sex. I'm sorry, you assumed this man was not having sex with his primary partner, his wife, who he is married to, and now you're mad and putting him on blast for having sex with his wife, who he is married to. And OP replies, he hinted at a dead bedroom for years. Despite that, he could be having sex with 5 other people, and I don't care unless it's protected. Not putting him on blast, I've not insulted him in any way, I'm just confused about how to feel about the situation. Why do you trust this man who lied by omission? Why do you trust that he's only having sex with you and his wife? Why'd he get an STD panel if he's only having sex with you? Things aren't adding up on his end. Anyway guys, that's just a fun little story that I wanted to share. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. As always, I will see you in the next one. Bye.